I think I didn't do anything wrong, just what made me feel alive for once. That's what I told myself anyway, until the day my husband handed me a thick envelope from his lawyer and told me to pack my things. All I wanted was to feel seen. Is that so much to ask? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Leocadia Finch, but everyone calls me Leo. At 33, I work part-time at the Maplewood Public Library, shelving books and helping patrons find romance novels they're too embarrassed to ask for directly. My husband Ethan is 35, an IT consultant who spends most evenings hunched over his laptop, debugging code while I sit alone watching Netflix reruns. We have a 7-year-old daughter, Maisie, who has Ethan's quiet disposition and my stubborn streak. She's been asking lately why Daddy works so much and why Mommy seems sad all the time. I don't know how to explain that marriage sometimes feels like wearing shoes that used to fit perfectly, but now pinch your toes with every step. The first time I noticed Jasper Wynn, he was arranging pastries in the glass case at the library's small cafe. 29 years old with dark hair that curled slightly at the edges and green eyes that crinkled when he smiled, he had this way of looking at you like you were the only person in the room. When he handed me my usual vanilla latte, his fingers brushed mine just a moment longer than necessary. "You're here every day," he said, leaning against the counter. "Same time, same order. Creature of habit?" "Maybe I just like consistency," I replied, surprised by the flutter in my stomach. When was the last time someone had paid attention to my patterns, my preferences? "Or maybe you like good coffee?" His smile was warm, genuine. "I'm Jasper, by the way. I've been wanting to introduce myself properly." "Leo," I said, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "And yes, the coffee is excellent." Over the following weeks, our conversations grew longer. He'd ask about the books I was processing, share stories about difficult customers, compliment my earrings or the color of my sweater. Small things that Ethan hadn't noticed in years. "You seem different lately," Ethan mentioned one evening, not looking up from his laptop. "More, I don't know, energetic." "I've been enjoying work more," I said carefully. "There's this new barista who's actually interesting to talk to." Ethan grunted, already back to his screen. "That's nice, honey." My phone buzzed with a text from Jasper. "Hope you're having a good evening. Can't wait to see your smile tomorrow." I quickly deleted it, glancing at Ethan. He hadn't noticed. The next day, Jasper suggested we grab coffee somewhere else after my shift. "There's this great little place downtown," he said. "Much cozier than here." I should have said no, should have explained that I was married, that this was inappropriate. Instead, I heard myself saying, "That sounds lovely." When Ethan texted asking why I was late, I told him I was staying for inventory. The lie came so easily it scared me. "You look beautiful," Jasper said, as we sat across from each other at the small cafe. "Your husband's a lucky man." "He doesn't seem to think so," I replied, immediately regretting the admission. "Then he's an idiot," Jasper said simply. We talked for 2 hours. About books, about dreams, about the feeling of being invisible in your own life. When he walked me to my car, he kissed my cheek softly. "I'd like to do this again," he whispered. Driving home, I felt more alive than I had in years. Ethan was already asleep when I got home, and Maisie was at my sister Paula's for the night. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, replaying every moment, every word. My phone buzzed with another text from Jasper. "You made my whole week. Sweet dreams. Beautiful." I deleted it immediately, then went inside to my sleeping husband, who hadn't asked where I'd been. Paula encouraged me when I told her about Jasper over lunch the following Saturday. At 31, my younger sister had always been the adventurous one, the one who chased her desires without apology. "Life's too short to be miserable," she said, sipping her mimosa. "When's the last time Ethan made you feel special?" I couldn't remember. But I'm married, Paula. I have Maisie to think about. And what kind of example are you setting by staying in a loveless marriage? Maisie deserves to see her mother happy. That evening, Ethan was working late again. Maisie was having a sleepover at her friend's house. When Jasper texted, asking if I wanted to have dinner at Luna Bistro, I found myself saying yes. I told Ethan I was having a girls' night with Paula. Another lie, but this one felt necessary. I even posted a vague photo on social media, a picture of 2 wine glasses I'd found online, and tagged Paula. She quickly liked it and commented, "So fun," to maintain the illusion. Luna Bistro was intimate and dimly lit, with small tables covered in white tablecloths and flickering candles. Jasper had reserved a corner booth, away from the main dining area. "You look stunning," he said as I slid into the booth. I'd worn my black dress, the one Ethan used to love, but hadn't commented on in months. "Thank you," I said, feeling heat rise in my cheeks. "This place is beautiful." "Not as beautiful as you." We ordered wine and talked about everything and nothing. He told me about his dreams of opening his own cafe someday, about the poetry he wrote in his spare time. I found myself sharing things I'd never told anyone. My fear that I was becoming invisible, my longing for passion and connection. "You deserve so much more than you're getting," he said, reaching across the table to take my hand. "You're incredible, Leo, brilliant and funny and absolutely gorgeous." When was the last time someone had called me incredible? My phone buzzed repeatedly throughout dinner. Ethan calling. I sent him to voicemail each time, texting that I was having too much fun to talk. "Everything okay?" Jasper asked. "Just my husband checking in," I said. "He's not used to me being out." "Maybe that's part of the problem," Jasper said gently. "You shouldn't have to ask permission to live your life." After dinner, he walked me to my car. The parking lot was dimly lit, and I didn't notice the familiar sedan parked across the street until we were already embracing. Jasper kissed me properly this time, his hands tangling in my hair, and I kissed him back with years of pent-up longing. "I should go," I whispered against his lips. "I know," he said, but neither of us moved. When we finally separated, I felt dizzy with guilt and desire. As I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been watching us. Ethan was awake when I got home, sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop closed. "How was girls' night?" he asked, his voice carefully neutral. "Fun," I said quickly. "Paula says hi." "That's nice. Helen called looking for you. She was worried about Maisie." Ethan's mother had called while I was on my fake girls' night. My stomach dropped. "What did you tell her?" "That you were out with your sister. She seemed surprised, said she'd tried calling Paula first and got no answer." "Paula's phone probably died," I said, hoping my voice sounded casual. "You know how she is with charging it." Ethan nodded slowly. "Yeah, probably." But something in his eyes had changed, a wariness that hadn't been there before. Ethan's 36th birthday fell on a Saturday 2 weeks later. I'd planned a small family dinner, just us, Maisie, Helen, and Ethan's older brother David. I'd even made Ethan's favorite lasagna from scratch, hoping to smooth over whatever tension had been building between us. But the day felt off from the moment I woke up. Jasper had texted me early that morning. "Wish I could spend the day with you instead." I deleted it quickly, but not before feeling that familiar flutter of excitement mixed with guilt. "Mommy, why are you always on your phone now?" Maisie asked over breakfast. "I'm not always on my phone, sweetheart," I said, putting it face down on the counter. "Yes, you are. And you're always going out now." "Why don't you want to stay home with me and Daddy anymore?" The question hit me like a physical blow. "Of course I want to stay home with you, baby. Mommy just needs to have grown-up time sometimes." "But you seem sad when you're here," Maisie said quietly. "Are you sad because of me and Daddy?" "No, honey, never because of you." I knelt down to hug her, but she felt stiff in my arms. Helen arrived first, carrying a beautifully wrapped present, and wearing her usual disapproving expression. At 60, Ethan's mother had never quite warmed to me, though she'd been civil for Ethan's sake. "You look tired, dear," she said, air-kissing my cheek. "Everything all right?" "Just busy with work," I replied. Ethan mentioned you've been working a lot of evenings lately. That's unusual for a library, isn't it?" Before I could answer, David arrived with his wife and kids. At 38, Ethan's older brother had always been the peacemaker in the family, but even he seemed subdued tonight. Dinner was tense. Ethan was quiet, responding to conversation, but not initiating any. Helen kept making pointed comments about family responsibilities and commitment. Maisie picked at her food and kept glancing between her father and me with worried eyes. "So, Leo," Helen said as I served the birthday cake, "Ethan tells me you've been having lots of girls' nights lately. How nice that you and Paula have been spending so much time together." "We've always been close," I said carefully. "Yes, though it's funny, I ran into Paula at the grocery store yesterday, and she mentioned she's been working so much overtime, she hasn't had time to socialize. Must have been a different night she was thinking of." My blood ran cold. Paula hadn't covered for me properly. "We've had a few different get-togethers," I said, hoping my voice sounded steady. "I'm sure you have," Helen said, her smile sharp. The tension was suffocating. I felt cornered, defensive, and before I could stop myself, the words came tumbling out. "You know what, Helen? I'm sorry if my having a social life bothers you, but I'm entitled to some happiness. I spend most of my time taking care of everyone else's needs, and God forbid I try to have a little fun for once." The table went silent. Maisie's eyes filled with tears. "Leo," David said quietly, "I don't think anyone's saying—" "No, let me finish," I continued, the words pouring out like poison. "I'm tired of being judged for wanting more than just cooking and cleaning and sitting at home every night while my husband ignores me. Maybe if Ethan paid half as much attention to me as he does to his computer, I wouldn't need to look elsewhere for conversation and companionship." Helen's face had gone white. "Look elsewhere," she repeated. Ethan finally spoke, his voice deadly quiet. "That's enough, Leo." "Is it? Because I'm tired of pretending everything's fine when it's not. I'm lonely, Ethan. I'm so damn lonely, and you don't even see it." "Mommy, please stop," Maisie whispered, tears streaming down her face. The sight of my daughter crying snapped me back to reality. What was I doing? What had I just said? Helen stood up abruptly. "I think I should go," she said, her voice shaking with anger. "David, would you mind driving me home?" "Mom, wait," Ethan said, but she was already gathering her purse. "No, Ethan, I won't sit here and watch your wife humiliate you in front of your family." She looked at me with undisguised disgust. "I don't know what's gotten into you, Leocadia, but this behavior is appalling." After they left, the house felt like a tomb. Maisie had run to her room, and I could hear her crying through the door. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, staring at his untouched piece of cake. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I don't know what came over me." He looked up at me then, and I saw something I'd never seen in his eyes before. Disappointment so deep it looked like grief. "We need to talk tomorrow," he said simply, "when Maisie's not here." That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling while Ethan slept with his back to me. I'd crossed a line tonight and I knew it, but part of me felt vindicated too. At least now, everyone knew I wasn't happy. At least now my pain was visible. I just didn't realize yet how much more pain was coming. Monday morning at the library felt different. My colleague Jennifer, who usually chatted with me about weekend plans and new book arrivals, was oddly distant. When I asked if everything was okay, she gave me a tight smile. "Oh, everything's fine," she said. "Just busy, you know." But I caught her whispering with Margaret from circulation, both of them glancing in my direction. A cold dread settled in my stomach. At lunch, I texted Jasper asking if we could meet for coffee. I needed to see him, to feel that spark of connection that made everything else fade away. "Can't today," he replied. "Pretty swamped here." It was the first time he'd turned down a chance to see me. I tried to push down the panic rising in my chest. That afternoon, Jennifer approached my desk with an uncomfortable expression. "Leo, can I talk to you privately?" We went to the small break room in the back. Jennifer closed the door and turned to face me, her expression serious. "Look, I like you, so I'm going to be straight with you. People are talking." "About what?" "About you and Jasper. Someone saw you two at Luna Bistro last week and, well, it didn't look like a business dinner." My mouth went dry. "I don't know what you mean." "Leo, please, you were holding hands." "Kissing in the parking lot. Margaret's friend works at Luna Bistro. She told Margaret, who told everyone else." The room felt like it was spinning. "It's not what it looks like." "Isn't it?" Jennifer's voice was gentle but firm. "Look, I'm not judging you. Marriage is hard. But you have a reputation to think about. This is a small town, and people talk. It's already getting back to your husband." "What do you mean?" "Someone called the library this morning asking about your work schedule. Wanted to verify that you'd been working late on certain nights. It sounded like they were checking your story against something." I felt sick. Someone was investigating me, gathering evidence. But who? That evening, I tried calling Paula, but she didn't answer. When I texted her, she replied hours later with a brief, "Can't talk now. Call you tomorrow." Even my sister was avoiding me. Ethan was working late again, or at least he said he was. Maisie was unusually quiet during dinner, pushing her mac and cheese around her plate without eating. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" I asked. "Emma's mum said something weird to me today," Maisie said quietly. "What did she say?" "She asked if you and Daddy were getting divorced. She said her mum heard you were dating someone else." The fork fell from my hand, clattering against my plate. "What did you tell her?" "I said that was stupid and her mum was lying." Maisie looked up at me with Ethan's serious eyes. "But you're not, are you, Mummy? You're not dating someone else?" "Of course not, baby. Emma's mum is just confused." But even as I said it, I could see that Maisie didn't quite believe me. My 7-year-old daughter was looking at me with the same wariness I'd been seeing in everyone else's eyes. That night, after Maisie was asleep, I went to Ethan's home office to use his printer. I needed to print out some work documents, and my laptop was acting up. The desk drawer was slightly open, which was unusual. Ethan was meticulous about keeping his workspace organized. Curious, I pulled it open further. Inside was a thick stack of printed papers. My heart stopped when I saw what they were. Screenshots of text messages. My text messages with Jasper. "You made my whole week. Sweet dreams. Beautiful. Wish I could spend the day with you instead. Can't wait to hold you again." There were dozens of them, dating back weeks. Messages I thought I'd deleted. Messages that painted a clear picture of an ongoing affair. At the bottom of the stack was a business card. Eagle Eye Investigations, discreet professional services. My legs gave out, and I sank into Ethan's desk chair. He knew. He'd known for who knows how long, and he'd been gathering evidence. I heard his car in the driveway and quickly closed the drawer, rushing back to the living room. When he came in, I was sitting on the couch pretending to watch TV, my heart hammering against my ribs. "How was work?" I asked, trying to sound normal. "Productive," he said, hanging up his jacket. "Got a lot accomplished." He looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something in his expression that chilled me to the bone. It wasn't anger or hurt. It was the look of someone who'd already made a decision. "I think I'll turn in early tonight," he said. "Big day tomorrow." As he headed upstairs, I realized that everything was about to change. The evidence was already compiled. The investigation was already complete. Tomorrow, the reckoning would begin. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those printed messages, that business card. When morning came, Ethan was already gone. A note on the kitchen counter said he'd taken Maisie to school and would be working from his office downtown today. I called in sick to the library. I couldn't face Jennifer's knowing looks or the whispered conversations that stopped when I walked by. Instead, I drove to Paula's apartment, desperate for someone to talk to. "Leo, what are you doing here?" Paula asked when she opened the door. She looked uncomfortable, avoiding my eyes. "I need to talk to you. Everything's falling apart." She let me in reluctantly. Her usually warm apartment felt cold, unwelcoming. "Paula, I think Ethan knows about Jasper. He hired a private investigator." "I know," she said quietly. "You know?" "How do you know?" Paula sat down heavily on her couch. "He called me yesterday, asked me to verify the nights you said you were with me." My stomach dropped. "What did you tell him?" "The truth, Leo. I told him the truth." "You what? You were supposed to cover for me." "No, I wasn't." Paula's voice rose. "I never agreed to lie to your husband indefinitely. I thought this was just a harmless flirtation, maybe one coffee date. I didn't know you were having a full-blown affair." "It's not a full-blown affair. We've only kissed." "Leo, I've seen the way you talk about him, the way you light up when you get his texts. You're in love with him." The words hit me like a slap because they were true. Somewhere along the way, I had fallen in love with Jasper, with the way he made me feel seen, desired, important. "Even if that's true, you're my sister. You're supposed to be on my side." "I am on your side. That's why I'm telling you to stop this before it gets worse. End it with Jasper. Tell Ethan the truth. Fight for your marriage." "What if I don't want to fight for it? What if I want something different?" Paula stared at me. "You have a 7-year-old daughter, Leo. You have a husband who loves you, even if he's not perfect. You have a life that thousands of people would be grateful for. A life that's suffocating me. Then fix it. Go to counseling, talk to Ethan, but don't blow up your family for some barista who doesn't even want a real relationship with you." "What's that supposed to mean?" Paula hesitated. "Jennifer called me yesterday. She said Jasper's been telling people at the library that you're just going through a midlife crisis, that he's not looking for anything serious." The words felt like a physical blow. "That's not true." "Isn't it? When's the last time he talked about a future with you? Has he ever mentioned leaving his job, his apartment? Has he ever asked you to leave Ethan?" I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it. Paula was right. Jasper had never talked about our future. He'd never pushed me to make a choice. He was content with stolen moments and secret kisses. My phone rang. Ethan's name appeared on the screen. "Answer it," Paula said. "Hello?" "Leo, I need you to meet me at Eagle Eye Law Offices on Main Street. Can you be there in an hour?" "Ethan, what's this about?" "I think you know what it's about. 1 hour, Leo. Don't make me come find you." The line went dead. Paula was watching me with sad eyes. "He wants to meet at a law office," I said. "Then you better go. And Leo, whatever happens, don't lie anymore. You've done enough damage with lies." Eagle Eye Law Offices was in a sleek building downtown. The receptionist directed me to a conference room where Ethan sat at a polished table with a woman in her 50s, wearing a sharp business suit. "Leo, this is Amanda Chen, my attorney. Please sit down." I sat across from them, feeling like I was facing a firing squad. "Mrs. Finch," Amanda said, "we're here to discuss the dissolution of your marriage to Mr. Finch. He's prepared to offer you a very fair settlement, provided you agree to certain terms." "Dissolution?" The word felt foreign on my tongue. "You mean divorce?" "Yes," Ethan said quietly. "I mean divorce." "Ethan, please. Can we talk about this privately?" "We're past private conversations, Leo. You lost that privilege when you decided to have an affair." "It wasn't an affair. We just kissed a few times. It didn't mean anything." Amanda slid a thick folder across the table. "These documents suggest otherwise." Inside were the printed messages, restaurant receipts, photographs of Jasper and me together, evidence of weeks of deception and emotional infidelity. "You had me followed," I said. "I had my suspicions confirmed," Ethan replied. "After your performance at my birthday dinner, I knew something was going on. The private investigator just documented what I already suspected." "So you've been planning this? While I was trying to save our marriage, you were planning to destroy it. Save our marriage? Ethan's calm facade cracked slightly. When exactly were you trying to save our marriage, Leo? When you were deleting text messages from your lover? When you were lying about working late? When you humiliated me in front of my family? I was unhappy, Ethan. I tried to tell you, but you never listened. So you decided to cheat instead of having an adult conversation about our problems. I didn't cheat. You had a romantic relationship with another man while married to me. You lied repeatedly about where you were and who you were with. You used our daughter as cover for your deception. What would you call it? I had no answer for that. Amanda continued outlining the terms of the separation. I would move out of the house by Friday. Ethan would retain primary custody of Maisie, with me getting visitation rights every other weekend. I would receive spousal support for 2 years, enough to get back on my feet. This is very generous, Amanda said. Mr. Finch could pursue a fault-based divorce, which would significantly impact the financial settlement. He's choosing not to do that, for your daughter's sake. What if I don't agree to this? Then we go to court, Ethan said, and all of this becomes public record. Is that what you want for Maisie? The thought of my daughter's classmates' parents reading about my affair in court documents made me feel sick. I need time to think. You have until Friday, Amanda said, sliding another set of papers toward me. These are temporary custody and support orders. Mr. Finch will pick up Maisie from school today and explain the situation to her. No, please, let me talk to her first. You've lost the right to control this narrative, Leo. You should have thought about Maisie before you started sneaking around. I looked at my husband, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. The quiet, gentle man I'd married was gone, replaced by someone cold and methodical. When did you become so calculating? I asked. When I realized my wife was a liar, he said simply. As I walked to my car with the papers in my shaking hands, I realized that everything I'd thought I wanted, excitement, passion, feeling alive, had cost me everything I actually had. Friday morning came too quickly. I'd spent the week in a haze, staying at Paula's apartment and trying to process how completely my life had imploded. Jasper had stopped responding to my texts altogether. When I went to the library cafe, his manager told me he'd requested a transfer to another location. Even my lover had abandoned me. Paula had been supportive but honest. You made choices, Leo. Now you have to live with the consequences. The hardest part was telling Maisie. Ethan had explained that Mommy and Daddy were having problems and would be living apart for a while, but I could see the confusion and hurt in her eyes. Did I do something wrong? She asked when I came to say goodbye. No, sweetheart, this has nothing to do with you. Mommy and Daddy we need some time apart to figure things out. But you're still my mommy, right? You're not going away forever. Never forever, baby. I'll see you every other weekend, and we'll talk on the phone whenever you want. But even as I said it, I could see her pulling away from me. Children aren't stupid. They know when the adults in their lives have broken something fundamental. Helen had come to help with Maisie during the transition. She was icily polite to me, but I could feel her anger radiating across the room. I hope it was worth it, she said quietly as I packed my clothes. I hope he made you feel special enough to justify breaking your daughter's heart. David had tried to mediate earlier in the week, suggesting counseling or a trial separation instead of divorce. But when I'd asked if he thought I was wrong, he'd been silent for a long moment. I think you forgot that marriage isn't about what makes you happy in the moment, he'd finally said. It's about building something together, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Now, as I packed the last of my belongings, Ethan stood in the doorway watching me. He looked older somehow, like the stress of the past few weeks had aged him years. I keep thinking about what you said at my birthday dinner, he said quietly. About being lonely, about me ignoring you. I stopped packing and looked at him. You weren't wrong, Leo. I did get caught up in work. I did take you for granted. If you'd come to me and said you were unhappy, if you'd asked me to pay more attention, to put down the laptop and focus on us, I would have done it. Would you really? Yes, because despite what you think, I love you. I've always loved you. The past tense wasn't lost on me. But instead of talking to me, you went to him. Instead of fighting for us, you gave up. And that's something I can't forgive. Ethan, please, can't we try counseling? Can't we? No. His voice was firm. You made your choice when you deleted those first text messages. You made your choice every time you lied about where you were. You chose him over us, over Maisie, over everything we built together. I chose feeling alive over feeling invisible. And now you get to feel alive somewhere else. I finished packing in silence. As I loaded my suitcases into my car, Maisie watched from the living room window. She didn't come out to say goodbye. Ethan handed me an envelope. New garage door codes, alarm codes, everything you'll need to return. I've had the locks changed. When can I see Maisie? Next Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'll drop her off at Paula's. This doesn't have to be so cold, Ethan. We can be civil for her sake. Civil, yes. Friends, no. You killed that possibility when you decided our marriage vows were optional. He turned to go back into the house. Our house, which was now just his house. Ethan, wait. He paused but didn't turn around. I'm sorry. I know it doesn't matter now, but I'm sorry. You're right, he said without looking back. It doesn't matter now. The door closed with a quiet click. I sat in my car for a few minutes, looking at the house where I'd lived for 8 years, where I'd brought my daughter home from the hospital, where I'd thought I'd grow old. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. For a moment, hope flared. Maybe it was Jasper. Maybe he wanted to try to make this work. Maybe all of this destruction would lead to something beautiful. But it was just a notification from the bank. Ethan had transferred the agreed-upon amount to my new account. Even in divorce, he was efficient and fair. I drove to Paula's apartment as the sun set behind me, leaving behind the life I'd destroyed in pursuit of feeling special. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd wanted to feel seen, to feel important, to feel alive. Now I just felt alone. 6 months later, I heard through mutual friends that Ethan had started dating someone, a teacher at Maisie's school, who was kind and stable, and everything I apparently hadn't been. Maisie liked her, which hurt more than I cared to admit. Jasper had moved to another city entirely. I found out through his social media that he was engaged to someone else, a young woman who looked at him the way I used to look at Ethan, before I forgot how lucky I was. I see Maisie every other weekend now, and sometimes during the week for dinner. She's polite but distant, like she's protecting herself from being hurt again. I'm working on earning back her trust, but I know it will take years to repair what I broke in a few weeks of selfish choices. Paula says I'm getting stronger, more independent. She's right, I suppose. I have my own apartment now, a full-time job at a different library, a life that's entirely my own. I wanted excitement and passion, and to feel alive. Instead, I learned that some prices are too high to pay, and some mistakes can't be undone. I learned that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Sometimes it's just grass, and you've burned down your garden to get to it. Most of all, I learned that feeling special for a few stolen moments isn't worth losing the people who actually loved you, flaws and all. But I learned it too late.